What if Tim Burton would have directed Batman Forever? Let's talk about what that might have looked like. Welcome back to Life in Technicolor. If you've been here before, hey, how you doing? What's up? And if you haven't been here before, my name's Gunnar, and I like to talk about stuff that I think's cool. And today we're talking about Batman. And you know what happens when we talk about Batman? I commit to the role. You know, this is probably my favorite ongoing joke in this whole YouTube channel. And I still think I would be a great Robin. I don't care what any of you think, like, Robin is dope, alright? But anyways, let's talk about this movie. So in 1992, Batman Returns hit theaters. This was pretty much a direct sequel to Batman 1989, except it could have stood on its own. There were actually very few callbacks to the original movie, but this was actually a very good movie. The movie, of course, had Michael Keaton returning as Batman, and he was going against one of my favorite actors, Danny DeVito, as the Penguin, as well as Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. And after Batman Returns actually being a success, Warner Brothers actually kicked out Tim Burton from the series. This was because the movie was very, very dark. I mean, I love how dark and gross this movie is, but parents were outraged. I mean, Danny DeVito really committed to the role as the Penguin. He looked creepy and disgusting, but he also had an army of circus freaks. His machines were big, scary rubber ducks. The movie started out with parents neglecting their kids. And I mean, Danny DeVito even bites off a guy's nose in the movie.
Still, could be worse. My nose could be gushing blood. Nose could be...
Not to mention Christopher Walken's part, who actually plays a corrupt business owner who tries to kill off Selina Kyle, which ultimately ends to her turning into Catwoman. And of course the scene where Selina Kyle turns into Catwoman and pretty much goes insane and destroys her apartment. Hey, she didn't have to do that. She didn't have to destroy that stuff. She chose to do that. She shouldn't have been crying as she was doing it. I mean, that's nobody's fault but her own. I'm kidding. It was a stupid joke. Once you write it in the script, it's in there. But parents were appalled, to say the least. I mean, imagine you take your whole family to the movies back in 1992, and you're expecting to see a Batman Christmas adventure, and instead you see something out of nightmares. So, Warner Brothers made a huge mistake, and they dropped Tim Burton from Batman 3. They actually passed the torch on to Sam Raimi, who ultimately passed on it again, causing the torch to be passed on to Joel Schumacher. Joel Schumacher actually originally wanted to make a dark Batman movie, but the studio made him make a more cartoonish Batman family adventure, and he went on to direct Batman Forever as well as Batman and Robin. For starters, Tim Burton actually hated the names Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. He would have titled this movie Batman Continues. And this movie would have included Billy D. Williams reprising his role as Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face. Harvey presumably became Two-Face after the Penguin made his explosive entrance at Batman Returns. You know the scene where the Penguin set off the bomb at the party and the people went flying across the rooms? You know what I'm talking about. That's what would have turned Harvey Dent into Two-Face. But after Joel Schumacher took over the role as the director, he actually recast Two-Face as Tommy Lee Jones. But Billy D. Williams actually did return as the voice of Two-Face in the Lego Batman movie. The next villain in the movie would have been the Riddler, played by Robin Williams. Well, actually, Robin Williams turned down the role, but he was the first choice. The next choice for the Riddler was actually Steve Martin, but he turned down the role after the death of John Candy. But the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson, oh my gosh guys, Michael Jackson really wanted to play the Riddler, but he was ignored. Probably because Michael Jackson's not an actor, he's a musician, was. And, I don't know, the thought of him playing the Riddler is hilarious to me, as well as the thought of him playing Spider-Man. I don't know if anybody else has heard this. This is another video, but I need to reference it anyways. Michael Jackson really wanted to play Spider-Man to the point where he tried to buy the rights to Spider-Man from Stan Lee. But that's a whole nother video. Matthew Broderick was also considered for the role of the Riddler, but the role was actually later given to Jim Carrey. The Riddler was also supposed to have a question mark shaped into the back of his head, but this didn't happen in the movie because Jim Carrey was actually needed in court during filming, and that really wouldn't have looked good in court. I would have loved to have seen Robin Williams as the Riddler. He actually auditioned for the Joker back in 1989, but was beat out by Jack Nicholson. And he later wanted to play the Joker again in the Dark Knight movies, but Heath Ledger ultimately got the role. I think they wanted a younger Joker for that movie. But man, I could have seen Robin Williams as the Joker. The last villain added to the lineup was actually the Scarecrow, played by Brad Dourif. But after Tim Burton left the project, so did the villain. Next up, Robin. Marlon Wayans was originally cast to play Robin. Other actors considered for the role included Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Mark Wahlberg, and reportedly Christian Bale, but a lot of people speculate that to just be a rumor. The two other things we know about the movie is that Selena Kyle was also going to be in the movie as Catwoman. And a smaller detail was actually Sugar and Spice were originally going to be named Lace and Leather. And that's pretty much all that we really know about Tim Burton's Batman Forever, or Batman Continues. I mean, we also know that the third movie was going to be the final movie, causing it to be a trilogy. So let's talk about what we did get instead of this killer movie. After Tim Burton left the movie, Michael Keaton left the movie. Once again, what the heck, Warner Brothers. But ultimately, before the role was given to Val Kilmer, the actors chosen for Batman included Alec Baldwin, Tom Hanks, and Johnny Depp. I guess I could see 90s Tom Hanks as Batman. That could have been cool. I mean, I prefer Michael Keaton, but if we can't get Michael Keaton, I could see Tom Hanks. Don't get me wrong, guys. This movie is nowhere near as bad as Batman and Robin, but it's nowhere near as good as Batman or Batman Returns. It's really a mediocre film. It's a very mediocre Batman movie. But one of the biggest complaints about this movie is actually Tommy Lee Jones' portrayal of Harvey Dent.
We're sick of waiting for you to deliver the Batman, dear boy.
Patience, oh bifurcated one.
Pace as hell, we want him dead!
And nothing brings out the Batman like a little murder and mayhem, baby.
Well, the least you could have done is let me in on the caper. We could have organized this, planned it, pre-sold the movie rights.
Tommy Lee Jones would be a good Two-Face in theory, but he plays the character way too over the top when Two-Face is supposed to be this Beauty and the Beast character. He's supposed to be a very dark and tortured soul, but instead Tommy Lee Jones really played him as an over-the-top Joker-esque character. Maybe one day Tommy Lee Jones could play Two-Face again and really play him the way that he's supposed to be played, but that's really not Tommy Lee Jones' fault. On top of that, the chemistry between the two villains was just non-existent. And the reason for that being Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones did not get along at all.
Oh, the guy that Tommy Lee Jones was talking to. It was at a restaurant, and you know, the mentor D said, "Oh, Tommy, I hear you're working with Tommy Lee Jones. He's over in the corner having dinner." And I went over and I said, "Oh yeah, great." I went over and I said, "Hey Tommy, how you doing?" Like that, and the blood just drained from his face, like he had been thinking about me 24 hours.
You'd already done the movie.
He was just fucking no. It was before the biggest scene we have together in the movie, and the blood just drained from his face, and he started shaking, and he got up and he went like this. He must have been in mid-kill me fantasy or something like that. He was like like this, and he went like to hug me, and he said, "I hate you."
Jim Carrey also plays a very over-the-top version of the Riddler, but I actually really like his performance of the Riddler. His main inspiration for the role was actually the original Riddler from the 1960s series. And believe me, it shows.
I've waited for this. It makes my whole life worthwhile. After you've chewed over this one for a while, look for two more. Adios, amigos. See you in court.
But Jim Carrey and Val Kilmer actually became very good friends on set. They actually bonded over the recent deaths of their fathers. And the last complaint about the movie is Robin. Well, not specifically about Robin. People mainly just complain about the fact that Chris O'Donnell played Robin. Mainly just because it is kind of weird for Bruce Wayne to adopt a grown man, considering Chris O'Donnell was 25 whenever he played the role. And don't get me wrong, Chris O'Donnell did a good job. He played Robin, but if they wanted to do the backstory that they did for Robin, they really should have casted a younger actor. But those are the real complaints about the movie. I love Batman Forever, but I really, really wish that we would have gotten Tim Burton's version of the movie. However, the original cut of Batman Forever is actually over 3 hours long, and it's supposedly a lot better than the movie we ended up getting. This caused Ice Cube, of all people, to start the trend on Twitter, #ReleaseTheSchumacher-Cut. I didn't know Ice Cube was a Batman fan. Hey, I'm down for it. But yeah, man, that's what it probably would have looked like if Tim Burton would have directed Batman Forever. There's actually a really good video on YouTube of a fan interpretation of Batman Forever if Tim Burton directed it. I'll link it down in the bio. It's actually really good. I watched it the other day and I was like, wow, that's really cool. But yeah, guys, let me know in the comments, would you have rather seen Tim Burton's Batman Forever, or do you like the normal Batman Forever that there is? What would you like to see differently in the movies? And let me know in the comments what your favorite DC character is, you know. I think you could guess who mine is. And lastly, I wanted to ask, for all of my Batman fans out there, did anybody ever watch the Batman Forever water stunt show on YouTube? It was done at like Six Flags Over Texas, like back in the 90s, but I remember watching it on YouTube and thinking it was really cool. I don't know, it would be really cool to get something like that again at Six Flags. I've never been to Six Flags before, but I'd like to go eventually, you know, maybe vlog it. I don't know, would you guys like to see that? So that's it for today's video, guys. Make sure to like and comment. That actually helps me out a lot. I don't know if you really understand how the algorithm works, but if you enjoyed this video, if you leave a like, then more videos that are similar to it will be recommended to you, and it also helps me out a lot. So it's a win-win situation, unless you don't like the video. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for hanging out with me, and as always, be nice to each other. Alright, I love you guys.